We've been kind of talking about sexism in football and violence against women. Suddenly, like, all these kind of things you maybe haven't paid enough attention to in the past kind of come to light. What's happening, boys?
Yeah, mate.
Hey, mate, you doing too bad, Steve?
Some men think it's acceptable to act in a sexist or an aggressive way towards women, and this exists in the football space as well. What are your experiences been in a football environment where you've heard maybe someone act in an aggressive or a sexist way towards women?
Definitely when I'm watching on the telly, not so much aggressiveness, but it's more casual comments, you know, especially when there's sort of women pundits, women referees. You'll always get some of the lads who say, you know, what's she doing here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think online then, for sure.
Like stuff that's sent around in like WhatsApp groups, and it sort of like slips under the radar a bit because whilst people aren't egging it on, no one's really like calling it out.
Any female that you know or a family member kind of been subject to sexist abuse while kind of in a football environment?
Definitely been on like public transport. I think there's been cases where there's like groups of girls going to that same game.
Yeah.
Don't know why, but all of a sudden like guys kind of got their back up a little bit about that.
Have you ever seen, when you're at the game, the typical chants that kind of come out if there's a woman in the crowd?
Yeah, I've definitely seen it. I've been too crude, like, get your tits out for the lads.
Yeah. I've heard that at many grounds.
It's all the time, yeah.
In such a large number of people, there is that like de-individuation. There's no accountability falling on one person there.
I can't think of an instance now, but it probably would have happened. But you just like, it's football, innit?
Yeah.
You're just used to it, so you just kind of like don't even acknowledge it. If we start talking about it as it being a problem, then we'll start acknowledging it more.
We've been kind of talking about sexism in football and violence against women. Suddenly, like, all these kind of things you maybe haven't paid enough attention to in the past kind of come to light. So that's hopefully what this conversation can do for everyone watching. It's incredible how prevalent this is.
Yeah.
But what have you done in those situations? Have you ended up having to call out a friend or maybe even take a friend to the side and go, do you know what, like, we've got to make this a safe space for everyone to enjoy football?
In terms of like on WhatsApp groups and whatnot, I think that's something that could definitely be improved about the way that we all kind of view it. Just because it's seen as okay or banter, it still can be damaging because of the impression it can lead on someone else, and then they could end up doing or thinking that it's okay to do things like that.
Even in like person, when a mate's made a comment, you've gone like, nah, come on, man. But it's still like tongue in cheek. It's not like actually that's not right. You shouldn't say that. And then that would be more impactful than just being like, nah, you can't say that, man. Like kind of half joking still. Some of the girlfriends of the team, like members, will come down and watch. And I feel like if anything was said there, there's that firm like, no, come on. But why should that be just because they're like a closer like relation to you? It shouldn't be that's the only time you kind of call out.
You know, when you saw those guys acting kind of relatively aggressively on the tube towards the group of girls going to the football match, what was it that kind of stopped you from intervening? I
was yet to like meet up with my friends, and there's a group of guys chatting to these girls. You don't necessarily want to aggravate that situation, so you're kind of feeling a bit unsafe in that scenario because then, okay, the attention's going to turn on me.
Is it going to escalate?
Right.
Is it going to make the situation worse? What can you do, I guess, as a little bit more of a passive way to kind of make the girls feel safe or mute the situation a little bit?
Perhaps like approaching the guys, but not like necessarily talking about what they're doing. Kind of talking about like, oh, so who do you think should start? Like these guys.
Almost like distraction.
Like,
Could also be just even approaching the girls who are getting subjected to the abuse and sort of say, where are we meeting our mates, sort of thing, as if you're with them, and try and distract the lads that way.
What are some of the barriers, I guess, that stop you doing it?
It sounds quite petty in the grand scheme of things, but I think one of the things is, especially when it's a large group of you, you don't want to be the one to call it out because you're going to kill the mood. And it sounds ridiculous, but that is true. And that is something that probably you let slide because you're in that zone where you're just having a laugh with your mates.
Yeah. What's the kind of, I guess, approach you could take?
Next time you notice them go to the bar, you can just like, just go up as well and just kind of just like say it there.
I remember going round to my mate's house after a night out and just being like drunk and loud and like they weren't, and he didn't call me out then, but the next day he just sent me a message and he was like, bro, like he was being a little bit annoying last night, to be honest. And when it comes from a mate, it does, like it makes an impact. So like, I think that's the way to go about it really, because if it comes from a random person, I think it's easy to brush off. But if your mate calls you out, it makes you feel like a bit of a mug.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I haven't done that again.
If you think about someone coming up to you one-on-one and saying, what you said there's not on, and if you think that would have an effect on you, which I know it would on me, then that's how you got to approach it.
hypothetically, if someone in a group situation said something, what would be the reaction to that within your group?
If we were to flag it in that group situation, I'd say you definitely get the support of everyone else there, for sure, if you were to call it out yourself.
There are obviously always like a few barriers in terms of like calling out friends and maybe the awkwardness around that, but sometimes it is small things that can really change like long-term behaviours. If we see it, you know, we've got to challenge it. It's time to say enough.